So let's just go back to that breaking news we brought to you a few minutes ago, that the political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, we're getting reports, has been killed in Iran. That's according to statements from Hamas and Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Iran state TV is also reporting he's been assassinated in Tehran. So let me repeat that, because this is a big story. The political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, has been killed in Iran. That's according to statements from both Hamas and Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Iran state TV is also reporting that he has been assassinated in the Iranian capital. Well, Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas, has now died at the age of 62. Jalid Aga takes a look back at Haniyeh's life and the events which shaped him into one of the most prominent Palestinian political figures.
This is what happened to the Al-Shati refugee camp in northern Gaza during Israel's war in 2023. It's where Ismail Haniyeh was born. He was the son of Palestinian parents who were forcibly displaced from their home in what is now Ashkelon after the State of Israel was created in 1948. Haniyeh experienced firsthand the challenges faced by millions of Palestinians in their search for statehood. But his future and influence would turn out to be different than most.
Americans take responsibility for giving unlimited cover to this enemy to commit to these massacres, war crimes and genocide.
In 1987, Haniyeh graduated from the Islamic University of Gaza. This same year, a Palestinian mass uprising began against Israel's occupation, also known as the First Intifada. In its efforts to liberate Palestine, the group Hamas was founded, and among its younger members, Ismail Haniyeh. His journey would soon become linked to the rise of the Palestinian group. Israel imprisoned Haniyeh several times for taking part in protests against the occupation. After serving his longest 3-year sentence, he was deported to southern Lebanon along with hundreds of Hamas members. Haniyeh returned to Gaza in 1993 after the signing of the Oslo Accords and became a close confidant of Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, the founder of Hamas. Together, they survived an Israeli assassination attempt, though Yassin was killed months later. His rise to prominence came in 2006, when Hamas participated in the Palestinian legislative elections. The group won a parliamentary majority, making Haniyeh Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority. But his appointment angered the international community, who halted aid to the PA, placing the governing body under severe financial strain. Hamas is classified by many Western nations as a terrorist organization. Months of conflict between factions led to President Mahmoud Abbas dismissing Haniyeh and dissolving his government. This would result in an independent Hamas-led government in the Gaza Strip, headed by Haniyeh.
This seizure should not break our will and should not turn this conflict into an internal Palestinian conflict, and that conflict should be against the parties that impose the siege against the Palestinian people.
In 2019, having voluntarily stepped down, Haniyeh left Gaza and began living abroad, for which he faced substantial scrutiny. Haniyeh faced criticism for his absence from the Strip during Israel's war on Gaza in 2023. He led Hamas's diplomacy from a number of locations as civilians were massacred in the Strip. Ismail Haniyeh's influence on the history and politics of Palestine will likely stay for years to come. And for many, he will remain a symbol of resistance in the face of occupation and adversity.
So let me just give you that breaking news again now. The political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, has been killed in Iran. That's according to statements from Hamas and Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Iran state TV is also reporting that he's been assassinated in the Iranian capital. So let me just repeat that for you. The political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, has been killed in Iran. We're getting statements both from Hamas and Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Iran state TV also reporting that he's been killed in the Iranian capital. Let's head to central Gaza now and speak to Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud in Deir al-Balah. Hani, this is an enormous story. The political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, killed in the Iranian capital. What sort of response are we likely to get there in Gaza?
Yes, well, this is a sudden turn of events, quite massive for the people of Gaza here who are perceiving Ismail Haniyeh as the head of not only just the political bureau of Hamas, but also he is leading the negotiations that they are viewing that hopefully at some point is going to be a much more solid into leading a ceasefire deal that will put an end to this relentless war across the Gaza Strip. Ismail Haniyeh is viewed by the majority of Palestinians across the Gaza Strip and the West Bank as the moderate leaders who is much more pragmatic compared to other leaders who seem to be much more into the military side of the movement. It definitely resonating in a very, very negative way right now. And I heard a couple of the comments that here that there is no further negotiations that is going to be, and the hopes that they were waiting that it could have been reached within the coming days as there are taking place. The scene is going to be very, very difficult. The response that we were hearing from people that this war is taking another turn right now, and the hope that they had at any point that there was going to be some sort of an end or a de-escalation date is not going to happen. And ahead of us, there are much more difficult dates, definitely when it comes to the negotiations for the ceasefire deal, for any potential future for the Palestinian people across the Gaza Strip or the West Bank.
Hani, I mean, how do Palestinians there in Gaza, I mean, he's the political leader of Hamas, but how do Palestinians there in Gaza view Ismail Haniyeh? He's not actually in Gaza. I mean, he was killed in Tehran and he lives outside of the occupied territories. But how do Palestinians view him, and what's his history and his family history there in Gaza? Because we know a lot of his family have been killed in Israeli airstrikes since the start of the war on October 7th.
Well, Haniyeh, not only he is representing a political side of the Palestinian people here, he's not only at the top of the pyramid of the Hamas movement, but also as a popular figure here. He is coming from a refugee camp. He grew up with the vast majority of people who are in fact the descendant, the children of the refugee families who were displaced from the Palestinian territories in 1948. He lived much through the suffering and the terrible living conditions of Palestinians as before the Israeli military withdrew from Gaza, lived through the first Intifada, the second one, been in prison with many people. He's very popular even with those who are rival with Hamas, including Fatah and the PA, but he's still viewed as the pragmatic, the realistic leader, and the one that who's always on the side of the Palestinian interest, despite the political differences. And his assassination today is resonating quite a lot. And it's not leading into anything positive right now, particularly at this difficult times. For the past 9 months, almost 10 months right now, this genocidal war has taken place. It killed many of his family members, including his own children and his grandchildren, and more recently his sister. Many of the people here predicted that the Israeli military would at some point get to Ismail Haniyeh and assassinate him, but not in that fast pace. Nobody imagined that it would be actually happening within this short span of time.
And what does this then mean, Hani, for any hopes for the nearly 40,000 people who have died, of course, and the nearly 100,000 injured and people suffering during this war? What does this now mean for any hope of de-escalation, for any hope